I've been spending RPG-like hours in NBA 2K23. This is the Michael Jordan year, celebrating the great exploits and the great history of Michael Jordan in a very, very big way with this edition. And 2K Sports sent me out the Michael Jordan edition of the game, which was much appreciated. This is the more expensive model, which comes with 100,000 in virtual currency that you can spend on a variety of different things. We're going to get to that in a second here. And I did have a terrific time jumping into the My Career mode, building up my own character. I called him Victor Lucas, so it's always surreal to hear the announcers call out Lucas whenever I made a three or got a great assist pass or something like that.
Lucas looking for an opening, and he uses the glass on the layup. Lucas has got 14 points for the game.
So it was fun to kind of take on the persona of this avatar and get into the story mode of the game, and they've been trying a bunch of different things with 2K over the last several years. I kind of like this year that it wasn't this big, elaborate, melodramatic tale that just deviated all over the place. It was a little bit more focused. We start at being drafted. We've got this rival named Shep Owens, and there's more banter about this rivalry than any real head-to-head exploits and elevated dramatic moments and encounters. We have a couple of those, but they're really through social media. Shep Owens posting some videos that piss me off, and I have to kind of either learn to take the high road and be the better man and play the game in a better way, both on and off the court. And I've got a bunch of PR allies, and I've got a coach that's a little bit hardline, and I've got a chief executive of the team that's got some other ideas for myself, and there's this real tension that arises based on your performance on the court and some of the chatter that's going on off court in social media circles, but also in the offices of the organization. And I was playing for the Chicago Bulls. It's the Michael Jordan year after all, and there's this great kind of celebration of the Bulls all throughout this game, which I really dug. And I was having a good time. I was kind of caught up in it. I got to a point in the story where it was really incumbent on me to show the city and the team that I was there to stay because there were powers that be that wanted to trade me away. And there's this little scene between MP, who's the player that I'm playing, and his girlfriend, and he's committed to staying in the city and building a life there. And I thought that was cool. And he does some things community-based as well. At one point, I put on this hot dog hat and went around the city and gave out flyers to different retailers to promote this vendor, this hot dog vendor that works outside of the arena. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, there was lots of attempts to curry favor and change opinions of other NPCs that didn't really believe in you. And of course, it's all tempered by how well you do on the court and how you upgrade your character as you go. And this is where the VC comes into play, because My Career isn't just this story mode, it's also kind of living in this NBA city and moving around from all of these different retailers and outfitting your character with awesome outfits and shoes and vehicle options like a go-kart or a skateboard. And of course, you can also spend that VC that you collect in-game, or you pre-purchase by buying a more expensive version of the game, or by outright buying VC on the various digital stores that all come attached to these games. And you can spend that VC money on your stats. And of course, that's what I did because I had 100,000 extra VC sitting there in the bank, thanks to having the Jordan edition. And so I leveled up my character so I could play better in the single-player story campaign that I was playing, but I was also a little bit more competitive when I played against randos in the online modes. Although what I noticed right away, and I've been playing since this game dropped, and it's only been a couple of weeks since this thing has been out in the wild, but I noticed right away that people had been spending real money or had been playing an inordinate amount of time somehow and had leveled up their players to make some amazing leapers and have awesome outfits and all kinds of radical customization and skills. So they were highly stacked level-wise, and they were just incredible on the court. And it really was this position of like, I don't really want to play against these guys that are able to make these huge jumps and awesome leaps and, you know, sink every jump shot and spin move around me every single time. And I was always in these random situations, always the worst player on the court. And I actually got kicked out of a game once. It's like, I'm too low rated. They just didn't want to play with me anymore. And it was like, yeah, that's really counterintuitive to the whole messaging about inclusion and welcoming everybody into the sport of the NBA. This idea that you have to pay more to be accepted in this random kind of got next situation where you can get on the court and play with anybody. I thought that was really kind of terrible. Thankfully, the game is loaded with all kinds of modes. And what I came away with is that there is so much content in this game that even if you choose, like I do and would, to exclude the idea of playing with random people online and getting into the VC currency race with other people, like how much can you spend to kick ass at this? I don't know how realistic it is to expect that this is the only thing that people will ever play. I guess some people find enough joy and value out of being hyper competitive and getting into the online matches and the My Team modes and just spending and spending and spending, both virtually and in the real world sense, or playing hours and hours and hours, or some kind of combination. They basically live in this game so that they can get hyper competitive and pick up all the player cards and all that stuff. I guess that's some people's jam, but for me, that is just such a defeatist way to play and have a good time with this. It just feels like the game is trying to siphon dough out of your life. You know, it's trying to pull money from you. And that just drove me crazy. But I had an incredible time. I played the Jordan Challenge, where you go through a bunch of historical Michael Jordan moments starting back in his college career, and where you're on the Olympic team and playing against NBA legends like Larry Bird. It was really, really fun to play that. And also Visual Concepts, the longtime developer of this series, just so experienced and talented. And they've added all of these incredible video effects that are era-specific and appropriate. And it's just cool, man. Like the graphic work, and sometimes the visuals are so compelling and cool in this game, the sort of historical stuff, but also the modern day stuff, that it looks so close to broadcast. We're not quite there, but the mind boggles at the idea of where 2K is going to take this franchise and how close to real life this is going to look over the next several years. But we're getting there, man, and this game absolutely looks outstanding. There's also been some huge improvements in the play of the thing as well. The AI is incredibly intelligent, especially the star players, and there's lots of pick and rolls and people positioned properly off the ball, making the right cutaways to race for the hoop, and some spectacular alley-oops will happen if all the positioning is right. All of the finesse and the tuning and the experience is fully on display. It feels very physical. You can feel it also. I was playing on the PlayStation 5, so I had the DualSense rumbling and just giving me all kinds of feedback as I was pushing against players and trying to defend them as they were trying to roll around me and be in the right position, as they were backing up against me and doing some spin moves and some finger rolls or some baby hooks or something. It was really, really fun to play this game. And it was fun to go from controlling just one player in my career and just getting better and better and more tuned, because this is a game, there's a bunch of different ways that you can play it. You can customize it, and you can push all the sliders all the way that you want to and change the camera angles to the way that you want to. But in the specific way that I was playing it, I was definitely looking at the shoot meter, and it has to hit that green, and it has to hit it precisely. So the one thing that bugs me about that is I used to play NBA games, admittedly, with less complex AI, and it was much easier to bust open and have 100-point games in those classic NBA games. But I used to be able to just watch the animation of my player and let the ball fly at the arc of my jump. And now you can't really do that. There's an element of feeling it almost like Jedi Force-like, where it feels like the right time to let the ball go. But for the most part, I am looking at the meter and waiting for that line to hit right into the green. And even then, you know, if you've got a defender on you, or if you've got, you know, a lot of traffic in front of you, there's still a good chance that you're going to miss. That's the sign of a good game for me, because I play this game like I'm watching an NBA broadcast. You know, I get animated. I scream at the screen like, come on, make those shots. And you feel it, man. And that's the reward for me. So I do come away from this game, which is also loaded with WNBA and of course the blacktop mode, and there's the NBA 2KU, where you're going to learn about all of the features of the game and learn about all the skills. You can pick a bunch of different teams and follow them across multiple seasons. Of course, there's tons of online options and all of the things that you can spend and spend and spend to augment your teams and play hyper competitively against other people. But I chose specifically to focus on the single player elements, to play the My Career story elements, but also the Jordan Challenge, and play the NBA eras as well. So I was playing through the 90s, which was the era when I was really focused on watching all of the real life NBA games, which was an awesome time to grow up and be an NBA fan in. And that's what I love about 2K as a franchise, is that there's always been this acknowledgement of the history and, you know, the present, and also where this sport is going, and it's just been perfectly aligned with the sport. The only thing that muddies it for me is this real propensity to make as much money as they can by pulling on the love and the obsession that people have for this thing. And it's gross. I really feel like NBA should focus on cutting out this idea that you can spend money on virtual currency and then use that virtual currency to augment your statistics and be a better player because you've spent your way to being a better player. That's just disgusting. That's pay-to-win mechanics, and it really should have no place in this game, in the NBA 2K franchise, but in any of the sports games, or frankly any game that's out there. This is a common banging of the drum that's going on by me and lots of people across the industry talking about video games. But I definitely felt it big time this time because the game was pulling me in a more substantial way, in a more fulfilling way than it has in years. And I've always been a fan. I always get a lot of enjoyment out of this 2K franchise. But this year, I don't know, maybe it was the Jordan special or whatever, but I just loved playing this game, and I'm still going to continue playing this game. It's not leaving my hard drive. It feels very much like a role-playing experience. The other thing that kind of drives me nuts, too, is the presentation hit that you take when you go into the city. I think the idea of the city is very cool. It's kind of the hub where you can see everybody that's logged in at the specific time. It's also the way that you can travel around and visit the stores and all that. And it's beautifully designed and it looks cool, but it's just choppy and chuggy. The frame rate takes a big hit as things are popping in and loading in. And the controls are wonky and weird when you get out into the city as well. It's not as elegant and refined and basketball-centric as when you're on the court. So you feel a bit clumsy and clunky as you're trying to tool around and pull off tricks on your skateboard and stuff. And I feel like they make so much money on this game. Maybe they would make less money if they didn't sell currency for stats, but they do, and they make so much freaking money that if they're going to do this city, and this is like the third or fourth iteration of this, they got to nail it. And it has to be really good and really fun. And if they're going to give you a skateboard and they're going to give you a BMX, like make those things feel akin to what you would play in a Grand Theft Auto or whatever. And 2K and Take-Two is the big sort of owner of all of this, and they also own Rockstar, and there's got to be some synergy there and some level of sharing some of that complexity, so it is a better experience, but it's not, and the play of it is just clumsy. There are some fast travel subway trains that you can take you can get from spot to spot if you want to do that, but all of it should be a lot more elegant. And there also should be a way to sidestep the idea of having to travel across the city if you don't want to. If you just want to go from story beat to story beat, you should just be able to jump right to it. But of course, the game is wanting you to kind of have this experiential element here so that you may be coerced into spending more money so you can get that cool shirt or whatever. So my suggestion for NBA fans out there, people that maybe haven't jumped into playing NBA 2K, because I streamed this the other day and I think people were rightly impressed by how beautiful it was and how fun it looked to play and how much fun I was having. But my suggestion is if you haven't jumped in for a while, just skip all of that VC BS. You may want to cough up a little extra to get the Jordan edition if you're a huge Michael Jordan fan out there, and you get some niceties and you get a bunch of starting VC that you can spend on your single player character in my career. But you don't have to do that. And my suggestion is if you are going to jump in, find some friends that you're going to play this game locally with, because this was the first year that I was able to do that with my daughter. I actually handed her a DualSense controller and we played together, and it was awesome. She was a bit begrudging. I don't think she had nearly as much fun as I had, but I had a ton of fun playing against her and watching her kind of learn the systems and the controls and make the shots, and I was very proud of her. She was great, and I think if she stays with it, she's going to get fantastic at it and be super competitive against me. So I'm going to try to encourage her to do that, because there's nothing better than sitting on the couch and playing against your friend or a loved one and having a good time in a sports video game. That has been true since the Sega Genesis days, and even before that, since Larry Bird and Dr. J go one-on-one on the old gaming computers back in the day. I love that. So it was really fun to play it that way. So play it locally, or if you don't have somebody that you can play it with, definitely connect with people in your life that may like NBA and want to connect online and play just with them. Don't get into this sort of going off and getting into the random ego check of how much money you've spent to get cool, and get good in this game, because that just seems like a fool's journey. It really does to me. And no offense to people that are just obsessed with it, but God, 2K is just raking in the dough in the wrong way. But this game is amazing. Honestly, Visual Concepts has really just done some magnificent work here to honor the sport of basketball and honor eras of basketball and Michael Jordan, and just deliver something incredibly enjoyable. I really love this game. but it comes with a giant asterisk, and I guess that's how I'm going to score it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 with an asterisk and play this game in a way where it's not asking you to spend ridiculous amounts of money.